boy Big Dave. What up, though? Y'all know what it is. Make sure y'all share, subscribe, and like the channel, please. It only helps the channel grow. You dig? And make sure y'all leave them comments and keep them honest and real. That's how we get down over here. Well, I got two special guests today for y'all. We're going to get into this topic. Is Karmelo Anthony case a slam dunk like most white people think it is? You dig? What up, what up, what up? Well, how you doing today? I got you like to introduce yourself, young lady?
Yes, I would. My name is Kiki. What's up, everybody?
What up, though, Kiki? What's happening, my man? You like to introduce yourself today, you dig?
What's good? What's good? Real talk with Big Dave. It's your boy Dame D from the What Up Doe Show. Coming to join this good conversation. I want to say what up though to you though, Kiki.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Yourself? Let's get it.
Let's get it. Let's get into it then. Well, we had an incident that happened not too long ago where two teenagers had an incident and it led to death. You dig? And one of them was white and one was black. You know what I'm saying? Really, we starting to have some divided attention through this. There's a lot of stuff going on with race with this situation. They trying to take this back to the OJ and Rodney King thing. You did? What you think about that shit, Dane?
Man, I'm gonna keep it real. This has divided the country into half. You know what I mean? It's pretty much. I think I'm gonna be honest with you. I think this case is going to be pretty much like how that OJ case went, where the country was divided. You got these white folks, already starting to trying to taint the jury. By saying a lot of stuff. But we'll get off into that as the show goes. But it's the country's divided on this case, Big Dave.
Well, it's very divided because every time I turn on the TV or go on social media, all you hearing is these white comments.
It is what it is. It is what it is. We got to be real, but go ahead, Dave.
Whenever a black guy's in anything concerning a white person is either by death or jail. This time it's the other way around. And now, once again, they want him to fry.
Fact.
They want him to fry. My thing, let's go back to that day. Let's go back to that day. From my understanding, this kid was standing in a tent that he had no business being in based on what they were saying about the whole situation. That he was standing in a tent and it was raining, so he went up under the tent to get away from the rain. And one of the kids realized he didn't supposed to be there, and he confronted him. And once he confronted him, it turned to a problem. It turned to a problem because the kid thought that he could put his hands on this young man, and the young man wasn't buying it. And he bit off a little more than he can chew, and it led to death. Now, I'm not saying by far that he deserved to die, but what I am saying is you don't put your hands on another human being. See, we was taught that in school. We don't care what they say about you. They can call you names. They can do anything, but just don't put your hands on them. Once you put your hands on somebody, you can't tell them what their reaction are going to be. What you think about that, though, Dane?
Hey, listen. We got a few people in here watching. I need for y'all to go make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, and share to Real Talk with Big Dave. It's a lot of people, not a lot of people. It's a few people in here that's watching. We got the thumbs up. We need to get these thumbs up a little bit more. But yeah, I'll go back to what you were saying, Dave. Yeah, I think this white boy, pretty much was coming at him with this white privilege. And I'm just gonna keep it honest.
What's his name?
When we originally heard this case, we try to look at things as a black and white thing. You know what I mean? Or as a right and wrong. Not black and white. But for the most part, the mainstream media and a lot of these white bloggers has made it a racial thing.
Yeah, they make it a racial thing because that's what they want. See, when the OJ trial was here, they made it a racist thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying OJ did it or didn't do it because I don't know. I wasn't there. But what I
Right.
do know, it was all kinds of planted evidence. It was all kinds of crooked stuff with white cops and all kinds of stuff. So what makes you think that's not going to happen here? That they don't want this boy to fry? See, they already are saying that he's wrong. But my thing, I want to what's bothering me the most. What does how much money he get from GoFundMe has to do with what happened?
Man, and that's crazy that you asked that question, because they going crazy over the money that his family is raising, and they fail to realize that only thing he's trying to do is raise money for his lawyer defense, and his bond money, which he's been released from prison, so he got the bond out of the way, so now they're just trying to concentrate on for this bond money, but these white folks, man, they tripping, not once did we speak out when they raised millions of dollars for this Dylan Roof, for his defense, the George Zimmerman, and they're going to try to say that it was a different situation, but money still was raised for these folks.
Well, it's always a different situation when it's the other way around. It's always a different situation. From my understanding, why what's the kid name that got stabbed?
Austin Metcalf.
Yeah, that's his name, Austin Metcalf. My understanding, this was a school tournament that the high schools do at all high schools. I played football for high school. We've been at track meets, so we know how this is going. This is ran by the schools. These are ran by, it's supervised by adults that works in the school, that's a part of the school. Authorities are there. So from my understanding, why did he feel the need to think that he can make someone leave like he has power, like he's running something?
I mean,
That's what started the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And it goes back to what I said originally, Dave. It's that white privilege. You know what I mean? That white privilege has given Austin Metcalf the power that he thought that he had, to be able to go up to this young man, which who went up under the tent to take cover and shelter from the rain. You know what I mean? He took it upon himself to go over there with his brother, being aggressive. You know what I mean? Carmelo Anthony came that day to a track meet, not knowing that he was going to run into this Austin Metcalf. You know what I mean? So the media is trying to paint, and taint a picture that this young man is a thug. He came there with a knife trying to, do harm to someone when that wasn't the case, Big Dave.
What I can't understand is how is he a thug when Metcalf is the one approached him being aggressive with his brother? He's the one that pushed him, Carmelo Anthony, first. He's the one that led the first blow. So you can't
Exactly. And that
tell a
goes
person how to react when you put your hands on them. And how you know that Carmelo Anthony didn't feel threatened?
right, exactly. And that's one of the things that, a lot of people keep talking about, and you'll hear a lot of the, mainstream media, and I'm just be honest, a lot of white people saying, well, that doesn't justify him being stabbed and murdered. You can't tell a man
Oh,
when his life is threatened, how he feels or what he should do when his life is threatened. You know what I mean? At that point, when you come and put your hands on somebody, anything else is out of the picture. You can't tell him how he's going to handle that situation. And he handled that situation best how he felt. He felt like he was threatened for his life.
well, you know what? Before we get into these questions from Kiki, um, what's crazy is remember, I can't remember the guy's name, but remember the white guy, and remember the guy, the bum that was sleeping on the subway, and he was approaching people, and they said he was messing with people and threatening people, and
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
innocent bystander,
Right.
vigilante, decided to attack the man and use deadly force until he killed the man.
Right.
Oh, no one said nothing about all the money they raised on the GoFundMe for him. No one said nothing about him being in the wrong for this guy that really wasn't a threat to no one. That guy didn't have a weapon. He didn't have none of that.
Yeah.
But this
You know,
guy
and
straight choked him out and killed him. But guess what? He got exonerated.
right. And
No
he
one
was
said anything about that, though.
right.
But when
And he
it's
was
us, here
they
come the
got a lot to
bull.
say. You know, he was able to raise money for his defensive trial and everything. You know, and that once that you hear any black folks speaking out about that, you know, basically, you know, they want him to be able to go in there with a motherfucker court appointed lawyer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
they
all
want him
that
to go in
is.
there so he can hang himself.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let's go to a couple questions here. Kiki, what do you like to add to this, honey?
Yes, I would just like to ask a question to both of you. My first question is, if you were in the same situation as Karmelo Anthony, how would you handle it?
Go ahead, Dane.
Okay, that's a good question, Kiki. I'm gonna be honest. If I was in that same situation, and I'm putting myself in the shoes right now, if the gentleman would have came up to me and asked me to move, you know, I probably would have said the same thing. You know, like, look, you know, I'm in here taking shelter. You know, I'm not bothering nobody. Um, you know, and that's it. You know, because
Well,
at that point, you know, he wasn't bothering anybody. That man came up to him, you know, fucking with him.
well, I'm gonna tell you like this. Thanks for being nice about it. I'm just gonna keep it real, and I'm gonna keep it real with the person I am. If he had came up to me and told me, "Why are you up under here? You need to move," I'd have told him, "Get the f out my face. Get the hell out
Yeah,
my face, man. Is this your tent?" See, because at that point, when I said that, he had a choice. And the choice should have been go get the staff, go get the coach, go get someone that's in charge of this situation and have them remove Carmelo Anthony. And then if they couldn't remove him, then you get the authorities involved. See, but that's the thing with white folks. They think they run everything because they taught that at a young age. Not all of them, but most of them. They taught that at a young age, like America is theirs. You see how they act since Donald Trump get in office. They just go crazy.
yeah,
So he felt that he can do what the hell he want when he wanted. And he had no business approaching him with his brother and attacking him. And I'm not saying that he should have died behind this. But if he would have minded his own business, maybe he'll still be here.
right. And I want to ask you a question before Kiki asks, move on to the next subject. You know, and I'm gonna ask you the same thing too, Dave. You know, the other day, the Carmelo Anthony mother and father, they had their first press conference and spoke out. Guess who
Okay.
showed up to the motherfucking press conference? The
Excuse me?
father of Austin Metcalf. You know, they had to escort him up out of there. That's that white privilege again. You know, how do you have the audacity, you know, to show up, you know, to their press conference? You know what I mean?
And here's the thing with
Disturbing and
that.
disrupting, you know, everything that, you know, everything that this family
Everything
had to
that
say
they had
that day.
going on.
Exactly.
But here's the thing with that whole thing, man. Okay, I understood when I watched it, I understood he said some positive things, he said some good things, but here's the problem. That wasn't your press conference.
Exactly.
You had no right to come there invading their space. That's once again a white person doing what they want to do because they believe they own America.
Yeah, because you got to ask yourself, was the Anthony's at their press conference? You know, I don't think they showed up not once to multiple press conference that the Metcalfs had. You know, they've been speaking through this whole case, through this whole since this incident has happened, and not once have
And
you heard from the Anthony
not
family.
one family member showed up to speak about and defending their child or any child.
Right.
So Kiki, um, what else you got for us?
Okay, my second question is, what evidence supports or contradicts Carlo Anthony's claim of self defense?
Hmm. Well, I'm gonna tell you the claim here to me is they automatically paint the picture that Carmelo Anthony was a troublemaker. He just showed up in this tent looking for trouble and looking to harm, and his intent was to kill. I don't see that. I see it was raining, pouring down. A kid went up under the tent. Another kid tried to remove him forcefully, and it turned to a bad situation. That's what I believe. So they contradicting this whole situation, like this guy is a bully, that he's looking for trouble. This guy was a captain on the football team. He was on the track team. He was an A and B student. But you don't hear nobody talking about that though.
Right.
See, that's how they do it. They paint a bad picture of us and then they crucify us. Dave, what you think about that answer she just answered?
Keisha,
Asked.
can you repeat that question one more time?
Yes, the question is, what evidence supports or contradicts Karmelo Anthony's claim of self-defense?
Well, I don't see anything that contradicts his evidence of self defense. I think he has the right to be able to defend himself. That young man, just like Big Dave said, that day he was at a track meet, had no intentions on even coming in front of these Austin Clark. I think these guys
Austin
took their white
Metcalf.
privilege, the Metcalf brothers, took it upon their own self. I'll say it again. It took that white privilege for them to even, because I'll just be honest. Most people in situations like that, when you see someone up under a tent taking shelter from the rain, it's understood. You know what I mean? So, I mean, was he being racist himself? By asking this young man to leave
Exactly.
when he was up under there, not bothering nobody. So, I think when they took authority into their own hands, and tried to remove him by putting his hands on them, that's when Carmelo Anthony did what he needed to do. So I think he was able to, protect themselves, and you can't tell nobody, what to do if they feel threatened. Because we have multiple cases with police officers that felt threatened that murdered black men.
Yeah, yeah. It's just the whole thing is sad. Someone's dead. Someone's got to go through a trial, and we know it's not going to be a fair trial. So it's going to be an up battle for Carmelo Anthony. But see, they already believe most white folks believe that this is a slam dunk. They really believe that he's finna get fried. They believe that. But to me, we don't get a win out this unless he's exonerated, like most white folks are. Because it seems like every white, if it's an officer or a bystander, it just seems like when they white, they get off and they treat it differently. And I'm not trying to say it's always like that, but that's what it seems like. Because
Yeah,
at
I
the
agree
end of
with
the
you
day,
100%.
at the end
Because
of the day,
Kenny,
this could have. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was
no, my
just saying.
bad. I would just go ahead.
No, I was asking her. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I was just saying he was being a bully because if he felt that threatened, like you said, why he didn't go get somebody that's in charge,
Right.
Yeah, he was just what he was doing was enforcing his will. See, because he felt like he had the authority and he felt like he had the backing.
Mm.
See, the thing is racial profiling. Have there had been a white kid that came and stood under that tent when he approached him the same way he approached Carmelo Anthony?
He probably wouldn't even said nothing to him at all.
See, and that's the thing here. See, but you get these people with a lot of following, you know what I'm saying, and they're going after Carmelo Anthony and their family. And you even got some ignorant blacks that's going after them and the family, talk about the activists sound stupid, they can't speak good. Once again, you helping make this a problem for Carmelo Anthony. See, and that's the thing that I don't like. Every time we look up when it's us, we on the losing end. We need some wins. We need
Facts.
some wins here. Because we always getting found guilty. We always getting the death penalty. It's always a loss for us. And even when they throw us a bone, these people, they don't lock them away forever. They give them 21 years, and they really only have to do at least 10 out of the 21.
Right.
Like the
See,
guy that killed Joy Floyd. They didn't really throw him under the jail like they should have after watching that video.
right. Well,
Well, let's
one
get
thing
go
one
ahead.
thing I can and I will say and I'll add, that will be in Carmelo Anthony's favor, no matter what the verdict or whatever the outcome will be. The law in Texas, um, he will not face a death penalty, or he will not face life in prison without the possibility of parole. So, at the end of the day, that's what a lot of the white folks are mad about. They want to see him to executed,
Of
or they want to see
course.
him in prison without the possibility
Well,
of
look,
parole. But neither
I
one of
just did
those
a
are going to happen.
show. I just did a show on the death penalty. That why I don't like it. And Texas is one of those states that has the death penalty. They one of those states that has executed hundreds and hundreds of innocent people. That's why I don't like the
Right,
death penalty. But I'm glad he's not facing that or life without parole. I'm glad. Well, Kiki,
right.
let's get into some more questions. Questions.
Okay, this is my third question. How can schools and communities work together to prevent such tragedies?
You want to go first, Dane, on that?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll say, and this is going to set a lot of precedents after this case. They're definitely going to have um, security or the police there to be able to stop situations like that. And I think they'll have a lot more um, authority around, for so students won't be able to, and I think, and then one thing for sure, they're definitely going to separate students. Students, you're no longer will be able to be participate, well, not participating, but they won't have the athletes from different schools together no more. They're definitely separate the athletes, from being amongst each other, because that right there itself, you know, um it's not a good situation either. When you have two schools already rivaling and competing against each other. So to answer your question, I think it should be a better security to be able to stop things like that from happening. Or to tour things from like that from happening. I should
Yeah,
say.
and I agree with you, man. I just think that the staff need to be more active. I just think they should also have also a grown up.
Right. Yeah.
Things that we can do to keep this from ever happening again. But
Yeah.
number
Because
one,
you and not to and I want to add one more thing, Dave. Sorry,
go
and
ahead.
because you gotta realize that sometimes these rivalries can kind of like football rivalries and basketball rivalries. You hear about fights and stuff like that happening all the time. So they have to separate the two. So I think going forward you will see a lot more separation between the two teams. And then my next question, and then my question I want to ask you, Dave, is what happened to the setup? Why didn't the Carmelo Anthony team have a tent set up for their players?
Now that is is something I would like to know myself because for him to have to come and find shelter under someone else's tent just to get out the rain, I don't
Right,
understand why they didn't have the same situation. See, and
right,
that's the thing. Some of these schools in suburbs, see, I don't know, what's going on that tip, but like down here, we got our schools in the suburbs. You got your schools in Detroit, in the inner city.
right.
And you go to some of these suburb schools, just everything is a lot better. They gyms, their equipment, the way they do things, it's just better. They got more
Yeah,
money.
I
It seems
agree
like the
100%.
state makes sure the funding is better for them than the public and inner schools. So I don't
Yeah.
know the situation there. Why did he end up under their tent instead of his own tent with his school? And I don't even know if he went to that. They went to the same school or not. That's the information I don't have.
No, they did not go to the same school at all. They went to two separate schools. Their
Okay.
schools were actually they're competing against each other, and they did not know each other also.
Okay. So once again, that's what I would like to know. Did they have tents or they didn't? Because maybe the school they go to are not, they didn't have the same situation going on as the Metcalf school. Because, like I said, down here, like on the football team, we go up to the suburbs and play them. They fields and everything are bigger, they're better, they look better, and ours
Yeah,
just look regular. And
yeah, it's
so,
almost it's almost like a whole different world, from the inner cities to the suburban
man,
schools. They see
man,
it set
some of
up
their
like
schools are
college.
like college.
Yeah, it's like set up like it is. It's set up and it's ran like a college. So a lot of that falls back on the schools. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it falls back on the assistance that they get from the government, you
Exactly.
know, because it's like some of these inner cities, they don't put the money into them like they will the schools out.
Yeah,
So,
and that right there falls back on like you said, the schools, not the schools,
yeah,
but the state who's funding the schools, I should say.
exactly. Well, let's get into some more questions. What do you have for us now, Kiki?
Yes, this is my
Next
last.
question.
Yes, this is my last question for both of you. What type of advice would you give teenagers to avoid this type of situation from ever happening again?
Mm. Well, the advice that I can give teenagers is if you ever in a situation like what just happened with Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony, number one, if I was in Metcalf's shoes, I would not be approaching someone I don't know. I would not be trying to remove them or threaten them or put my hands on at all. What I think these teenagers should do if they see something strange going on or see another kid in their area that they shouldn't be there, or I mean, they shouldn't be there and they don't recognize them or don't know them or think they shouldn't be there, the first thing I think they should do is just go to a coach and tell the coach, look, hey coach, this is a strange guy in the tent. I don't know why he's there, why he should be there. And then let the coach take care of that. If you don't see a coach, go to somebody that's in charge, that's helping run that event. There's all types of adults there from all schools. So it's somebody you can go to and talk to and get the help that you need instead of taking matters into your own hand. I think a lot of these kids, it starts at home. And if you taught at home properly to sometimes mind your own business and do things properly, these things wouldn't happen. Because what I would tell my children, if they are on the track team or whatever kind of team or sports that they're involved in, if someone comes into their space or in the area like this same situation up under the tent just to get shelter, don't say nothing to them. If you feel threatened or feel like it's a situation about to go on, go get help. Go get somebody that can take care of that for you. That's my
Right.
advice.
Okay, well, you got before I answer that question, you have a James Davis that made a few comments. His first comment was, "Why did Carmelo have a knife?" I don't know if you want to answer that first, Dave, and then I'll come in and
No,
answer a
go ahead,
second.
elaborate on it.
See, and that's where a lot of people is getting wrong information because what I'm hearing is it actually wasn't a knife that he stabbed him with. So I don't want to say that he had a knife because, like I said, you have some people that's actually saying it wasn't a knife. They were saying it was actually one of the stakes that they used to actually put down for the tents.
Okay, that you
So
have.
I want to get so me. I'll say let's get all of our facts first before we saying it was a knife. We know he was stabbed with something, but I don't think it was. A lot of people saying that that's close to the Carmelo Anthony camp that it wasn't a knife.
Well, I'm with you on this. I think we should get our facts together before we say what he had or didn't have because we really don't know what he had. All we can go on is based on the witnesses that was there if we want to believe their statement or not. Well,
Right.
we don't know if it was a knife, we don't know if it was a stake, We don't know if it was an object, a sharp object off the ground, but what we do know, whatever he had, he stabbed him. And we
Right.
can't take that back.
Exactly. Because for the most part, and James Davis just typed in again and said preach. But because for the most part, we're just going off of what the mainstream media and most of these white bloggers have put out about what really went on. We have a few people that was actually there, and spoke about what they saw and what went on, but the mainstream media is not putting that information out. They're trying to cover that out, so what we need to do as African Americans and Black folks is we need to get behind the Karmelo Anthony family. We need to be able to donate even more, and like I said, get 100% behind his family. But Kiki, I need for you to ask me that question one more time so I can answer it properly.
Yes, sir. It says, what type of advice would you give teenagers to avoid this type of situation from ever happening again?
Okay, there we go. And you know what? James Davis just made another comment, and he took the words right out of my mouth. And this should have happened on both sides. The Metcalf family, the father should have been able to show their sons and teach their sons conflict resolution. You don't go and put your hands on nobody, especially if you don't know them, because you don't know what the fuck can happen. When you go over there, and you try to put your hands on somebody else's kids. You know what I mean? So he
Uh-huh.
found out what was gonna happen. So my advice to any young folks, youth that's watching this, that's in a situation, you got to be able to have conflict resolution, or you're going to find yourself in a situation like Carmelo Anthony has found himself in a situation. He should have used conflict resolution too. So I'm just going to be honest. Both kids, and they're kids. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
but it got to be taught. You have to be able to use
And
self
see,
control and conflict resolution. Go ahead, Big Dave.
and you said his name was James. Um,
James Davis, yes, sir.
James, real good question. I appreciate that, James, baby, because we didn't show come with more and more stuff that's real.
Yes, sir.
But like I said, it starts at home. It starts at home. And if you're not teaching your children at home how to deal with certain conflicts or anything, they're never going to understand how to do it. It starts at home always with how they should act when they go to school and from the time they walk out that door. But here's the flip side of it. Some kids, sometimes you can teach them and put everything in their head and teach them everything they're supposed to know and everything you think you're supposed to teach them for them to achieve. And sometimes they just don't get it.
Yeah.
They just don't get it. Now, with this situation, I still say it could have been avoided if Metcalf could have just went and got some help. Yeah, Carmelo Anthony shouldn't have been up under their tent if that wasn't his school. Maybe he shouldn't have been there, but still he was. But it still was a better way to handle the situation. And a better way to handle the situation is all of us are taught if something is wrong or you feel threatened or in danger, go get help. Go get help. And for some reason, he felt like he didn't need to go get no help. And this could have been resolved on both ends. Carmelo wouldn't have went to jail, and Metcalf wouldn't have got stabbed. But I learned, like I said, I learned a long time ago as a kid, you do not put your hands on people. Because the minute you put your hands on somebody, that changes everything. You don't know what type of reaction they're going to come with. You just don't know. But Dan, you got any more stuff to add to this situation?
No, I'm agree 100% what you were saying, man. At the end of the day, this should be a valuable lesson taught to, not just to youth, to grown-ups. You
To
can't go
everyone.
around, thinking you can put your hands on somebody without it, being a problem. You know what I mean? And Austin Metcalf, he found out that day. And first and foremost, I want to give my condolences to the Metcalf family. Because you have a lot of these white racists thinking that us as black folks that we don't feel any sympathy, for the Metcalf family, which we do. A young man lost his life. And I feel for that father, and that family. No one should have to lose their life, but it was a horrible situation, and it happened, but like I said, this need to be a lesson learned, for anyone else who's in this situation. You cannot be putting your hands on somebody and thinking, it's all good.
And that's facts. That's facts. Well, Kiki, you have anything you want to add else to this?
No, but I do want to say James Davis asked a question to both of you. He said, "What did Metcalf actually do to Carmelo?" I think he missed that part.
Yeah, I see. If you want to answer that first, Big Dave, or I come in, or you want me to answer that
Well,
with you?
what Metcalf did is what most people do to think they can do when they to someone when they think they want to do it. Let me re-say that. He did what he wanted to do because he felt he could. And his mistake was confronting him and pushing him. From my understanding, he pushed him first. That's from my
Right,
understanding. He's supposed to push him, and then he was forced to defend himself. A fight broke out after that, and then somehow he was stabbed. From my
right,
understanding, I think he was pushed first by Metcalf.
right. And then they tried to move him up out of the area.
Yeah, they forcefully.
Right. So
Forcefully.
pretty much to answer your question, Dave, Davis, that's what they did to Carmelo Anthony. They actually invaded his space and they put his hands on him. And he acted, in a way that he felt like he needed to defend himself.
And what's crazy about the whole thing, Metcalf was looking for trouble, but he took his brother with him. If he felt like he needed to do this on his own, why did he go get his brother? If he knew to go get his brother, that means he actually knew what he was doing. So
Right.
instead of going to get his brother, why didn't he go get some authority? Why didn't
Because
he
he
go
thought
get an adult? Why
right,
didn't he
because he
go
thought
get the coach instead of
because
his
he
brother?
thought he thought him and his brother was gonna be able to put some fear in Carmelo Anthony's and they thought that he was gonna leave. That's why they did that. You know what I mean? And
And
that's
that's a
that's really
fact.
what it was.
And
Yeah.
it's sad because once again, is another kid dead. And this
Yeah.
all could have been prevented if it would have been handled right. And the
Right.
proper way to handle it is go get help. Go
Yeah.
get
Is to
help.
make sure that you have supervision of an adult. You don't have kids, because that's what they were. Younger, they were kids, handling adult situations, and someone end up losing their life in that
And
situation.
see, and people get it twisted these days. They think because kids are 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, that they're very mature and they can do this, they can stay alone all the time, they can watch their littler siblings. You got to watch the teenagers more than the little kids.
Yeah,
That's what
come on.
people don't understand. Your job as a parent is not over. Even when they grown, when they think they grown, they could be 19. They still come to you when they got a problem because they ain't got no money.
Exactly. Just think about when we was teenagers, so that's all you
Come
got to
on.
do. Just think about when you was a teenager. We did all type of foolish shit that didn't make no sense, and and this is pretty much, a situation like that, on both ends, you know, um, a little
Well,
bit of carelessness
okay.
on both ends, and they both should have been able to use conflict resolution.
And before we get up out of here, I want you to tell people where to find you at.
Yes, you can find me on the Flip app. My name is Kiki Love Sims on the Flip app.
Dang, tell people where to find you, bro.
Okay, you can find me on YouTube. It's called The What Up Though Show, with a $ in it. I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Go over and subscribe to the channel. And you can also find me on Facebook. Damon Jefferson on Facebook. And pretty much that's all I got going on. And I want to thank you, Dave, for Real Talk with Big Dave for bringing me on the show. It was an honor. And this was a topic that needed to be talked about. Because like I said, the mainstream media and these white bloggers has tainted the jury pool, and this is what they've been doing and set out to do in the beginning. So, I'm glad you had this conversation because this needed to be heard.
Well, y'all can catch me right now on YouTube and all the time on YouTube. Real Talk with WIT Big Dave. You can catch me on Instagram, TikTok, the same thing. Facebook, Big Dave Crawford. Y'all make sure y'all get with me. Well, we're going to go on and get out of here. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe, like, and share the channel. It only helps the channel grow. And keep the comments honest and real. And the special quote I have for you today is, people, quit taking things in your own manner. Quit taking things. Wow, I messed that all up. Quit taking things in your own manner, especially when it has nothing to do with you. Real talk. I messed that up, people.
It's all talk. Good. You got it together at the end, though, baby. That's all that matters.
Hey.
Peace.